HAT. It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. On today's episode, we talk a little bit about Men's Mental Health Month, but specifically about the reluctance for men to seek help. And we'll get to that very important conversation right after these important messages. This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is brought to you by the Heritage event, featuring Nate Oates, Saturday, August 23rd at the Renaissance Shoals Conference Center. This show kicks off at 7 p.m., doors open at 6:15, and table sponsors enjoy an exclusive dinner starting at 5 p.m. Reserve your table of 10, explore a variety of sponsorship opportunities, or grab your general admission tickets today. Contact Tammy Dial at tdial, D-I-A-L, at hcu.edu, or visit www.hcu.edu for more info. I'm Travis Creasy, that's All-Pro Counselor with Three Chord Counseling in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Ben Hayes, as mentioned before, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, especially June being men's mental health, and so we'll be a little niched down talking about men's mental health, and obviously if you're a guy, but even if you're a wife and your husband, and maybe you're looking for reasons why he might not open up or talk about his mental health. We're going to talk about a few of those reasons and maybe some ways to overcome them, right, Ben?
That's right, yeah.
And so what you got right out the gate here?
Probably some good timing as well because, by the way, happy Father's Day to all the guys that are maybe watching this week. I don't know when exactly this aired, but I'm not sure we got to tell you happy Father's Day yet. So happy Father's Day to you. And, I think that, there's just a lot of reluctance to seek out help in general. There's a lot of times where we talk about this with men in their health at all. I've heard so many stories of guys that just wouldn't go see a doctor. They were feeling kind of weird, like guys who might have struggled with a battle with leukemia at one point. Kind of felt weird, thought, hey, there's some things not feeling right. But I'm just tired. I'm just a guy. I'm just getting old, and we have a lot of those stigma and we don't want to seek help. And I think that really bleeds over and feeds over into mental health a lot.
Absolutely. So just as a reminder, go get your checkup. Go get checked up.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Not a bad idea.
Just figure out what's going on. Whatever it is, maybe that's a goal to have this week. An action item already out the gate.
That's exactly right. But, there's just some social expectations that sometimes you run into.
Boys don't cry.
That's exactly right. And, how many times growing up, I love to play baseball. I played baseball in middle school and high school, did a little bit when I was a kid. But, one of those first things, you get popped with a ball, in the batter's box and you're running to first base. And what's the thing? Don't rub it, don't cry, man up. And so from an early age, we get those kinds of statements made to us. If it's a little girl, you take her in your arms and you console her,
you can lean on my shoulder.
Yeah,
okay to cry.
But with guys, that wasn't the social expectation, at least not to us growing up. And so I think a lot of men who are in our age range really struggle with it. There's it's one of the leading causes of death in our age group is suicide. There's a lot of different things that people are struggling with, and they just don't go get help for it. Yeah. So I think those cultural expectations are one of the things that people really face and struggle with when it comes to men's mental health.
I think within the church, Christianity, it's important that we make that message clear. We all have weaknesses. And if you're like me, you have multiple, and it's okay to admit that. In fact, it's even encouraged that we confess our weaknesses. I know it's usually sin, and weakness and sin aren't necessarily the same thing every time. But it is important that we all have those things regardless, and we all need help from time to time.
And they kind of bleed over to each other for sure. There's times when, there is a weakness or there is a struggle that I have. And because I have it, I kind of, if I don't seek help with it, which again, like things like pornography sometimes are things that, those we see that as shameful, but we may have, a porn addiction or something along that lines, but we don't want to go tell anybody. And the things that we keep in the dark are the things that will grow. The things that we don't bring out, the things that we don't let people know about. And so all of those social expectations, feed into that. And I think, a second thing is we're just not very literate in emotions
I don't know how to tell you what I'm feeling.
That's right.
And so I don't really want to try it.
Yeah. And so we just we don't speak about it. We didn't train. When I was growing up, we didn't really talk about our emotions, our feelings as much. I've had a lot more training in that since, going through the counseling world, but it's just hard for us to come out and say what we're feeling. Girls are allowed a little bit more so in our culture to talk about those things.
Expected even to talk about those things to some degree.
Yeah. And so I think that's something that we really struggle with. And so one of the things I do in my work at the school is I try my best to help just talk about what emotions are. And even with young ladies, sometimes they don't know how to express those things. Either no kid does it at first. It's something we have to teach them, but to teach them the various feelings. Because we kind of want to think of things like, sad, mad, glad. We're pretty simple.
It's kind of like crayons for men. Like we just need like 5 or 10 of them in a little box. And then they come in box with shades. And there are shades to the mental health, just like anything else. There is nuance to so many of these situations.
I remember growing up when you wanted the box of crayons that was like 64.
Yes.
And it had a sharpener on the side of it.
That was
the thing that you look forward to. Well, that's kind of how it is with emotions, is you can have that little box of the few emotions that we can talk about. But when you really look at, Google it, look up an emotion wheel, and there's like 100 different words for emotions. We just don't use them all a whole lot. And so there's different shades of those feelings. There's different shades of those emotions. And the more that we know them and the more that we can, call them out and pinpoint them in what we're going through, the better off we are, because I can say I'm mad, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily say everything I'm really needing to say.
Yeah. And so and I know I've said this over and over again, but even when I'm talking to someone, I know my thought isn't a thought that is of God or is, necessarily what I should be thinking. And I know that you've addressed the intrusive thought that so often when you get it out there, even if you're alone and you just kind of say it out loud or you work through that, usually, or I guess a lot of the time, you'll come to the correct conclusion that that's not really a good thought. That's not really from God. That's not what I should do. But the burying it means it's going to stay intrusive. And you're not really wrestling with it and dealing with it. And so, I hate to use the phrase safe space because we've put a negative connotation on that, but really, ladies, whether your husband speaks and maybe he is one of those people that knows the shades of the emotion wheel, or if not, if you can be a safe space for him, that there is a window where you can say certain things and share and not be judged. And maybe that's difficult. Maybe that's some work to be done.
Well, and that's what I come across that sometimes in the couples that I deal with, where the wife is really frustrated because the husband won't talk about his feelings. He never does. And I don't know all the reasons for that. Sometimes that might be because when he does, he feels, kind of that social expectation. He feels less of a man because he's brought up that he hurts, that he struggles, that he can't manage it, that he can't handle it on his own. And so, helping him feel as though he is good enough, however it is, whatever it is that he struggles with, but also just being that listening ear. But also, I don't think we ought to try to force it. That's another issue that sometimes comes up is, she tries to make me talk about my feelings.
I want to be the safe space so bad, and you're going to do this, and that's not very safe.
And that doesn't always help. And so I think one of the things that we can do in that is, trying to help guys have guys to lean on. That's been one of my biggest encouragements in my spiritual walk, and just my walk as a father, is to have you and Will and Josh and Blake and some other guys that, we talk almost on a daily basis. We text back and forth about funny stuff, about things that can kind of relieve some stress occasionally. But then we text about the tough stuff too sometimes.
And there may not be a response. There are times where people will drop something in there. Usually there's a response, a thumbs up reply or something like that. And that's a lot of times what makes it safe for men is that, hey, I'm going to drop this out here. And whether you agree with the thought or not, it's been heard, it's been seen. And even if it's just a thumbs up or a heart or the exclamation marks pop up, you don't feel like somebody's going to try to correct you.
I know that you noticed it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all we need is the notice.
And so what might be the case is, and I think this is a hard thing, and we're guys saying this, so we apologize, wives at home, but I think what we recognize is that guys need other guys to lean on. And I think that's been the case for a long time. Now, I'm not excusing any bad behavior, so don't let me, but there's always been those kind of thoughts about, the guys go meet somebody at the bar, or they go, not other women, but go sit around at the bar with other guys. I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm just saying that that's always been something
there's a social aspect that's needed.
There's a gravity to that, and it might be going out and doing different things with the guys. And sometimes that's discouraged at home. And I think you have to be careful because guys generally, hopefully, we don't discourage girls from having their girls' nights out and the things that they do, and they go hang out because I believe you guys need that too. And so whoever it is listening to this, I think we encourage the wives, we encourage the husbands to have some of those times with other ladies for the women and other guys for the guys. Because it's in those moments that, for me, are my recharge moments. I go bow fish or hunt.
And you'd be amazed at how much you ladies get talked up when the guys are around. That's and exactly I know that sometimes it's pictured as the opposite. But really, like, we just kind of sit around and talk about how awesome Whitney and Kenya are for the most part. For letting us have these times. There are times I've heard Whitney and Kenya both reference that it gets to that point where it's like, you need to go hang out with each other. Like,
because we're tired of you. No.
Yes. There's an aspect of that where
we get annoying
social interaction. So maybe those things can help you, right? The idea that those are kind of the stigmas that kind of go along with it, that there is a judgment there. That looks like.
I get the world out of going and being on a boat with guys for the night, going and fishing one night. And Kenya knows I need those times. And Kenya's good with, wanting me to go have those times. Going and hunting with her dad. Used to go hunt with my dad, going and hunting with my kids. But with my best friends and going out there and spending some time in the woods, even if we don't shoot anything. There's a lot of times that I've sat with Daryl or I've sat with Lonnie in a tree stand and we've not seen a single thing, but we have talked and talked and talked, and it's just been good for us. These trips like we're on right now, sitting in a hotel room, Travis and I just enjoy getting to spend that time, and it helps us emotionally. I think it helps me emotionally. It helps me spiritually. It helps me in so many ways to have that. And that's maybe the other part, maybe the third part, is that so many times we're afraid to say anything because we fear judgment and shame from whoever it is. And so I think a lot of guys don't seek help because they worry about what's somebody else going to think. And that's where I think those good, strong bonds with friends, where I'm pretty sure I can tell Travis just about anything and he's not going to judge me for it. He may go,
hey, I've probably done something 10 times worse, but
you need to do something about that, or let's work on that, or let's see if we can't resolve that. But I know it's a pretty safe space to vent whatever I need to vent.
Yeah. And I think another thing that goes along with that is we don't know that there are mental health services out there specifically for certain aspects. And a lot of times, like Ben, I know Lonnie, they can handle all kinds of different, they're trained to deal with all kinds of different needs as far as that's concerned. And then there are people, I think Ben knows of somebody there in Florence, that it is men's mental health. That's what they're focused on.
Well, and just men's health in general, and so you can go see some of those places. One of them is a friend of ours, Josh Rogers, runs a men's health clinic, and he cares about all aspects of men's health, and so there's guys like that out there that you can call on and try to get some whatever it is, and he may those places like that may try to direct you to a counselor or to a psychiatrist or to somebody else, because they look at it and go, okay, you've got more going on here than just physical things, and so don't leave off the mental aspect of it, because we struggle, and there's no shame in it if you have a mental health disorder, mental health concern, because it's just like a physical concern. You can't help if you have diabetes. You can't help if you have high blood pressure. There's some things you can do to help with it, and it's the same thing with mental health. There's just some things that you may struggle with, and so let's find the right tools to manage it.
And that's what we want to do. If there's a way that we can help with that, if there's an obstacle that we can remove, or if there's ways that we can give you advice on who to turn to or where you may need to go, that may go into the checkup. Like Ben said, I'm sure if you go in for a physical checkup and you express with that person, and it's confidential, that there's some things mentally that you'd like to work through, I'm sure that they have references that they can give you
Absolutely.
to do just that. So we appreciate you guys for listening. This is kind of what this is all about, the Helping Healing Humor podcast, and we certainly hope that you get a little bit of that. Maybe you're sitting there going, where is the humor? And here's the humor. She was bred in old Kentucky, but she's just a crumb down here.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.